Good morning. Today we'll be doing simple interest day 2. So it's what we did on Friday, but this time instead of solving for the interest and the account balance, we are going to be solving for the principal, which is a large sum of money, the rate, and the time. We are still going to be using the formula I equals PRT, where interest equals principal times the rate times the time, but this time we'll be solving for one of the three on the right side. As always, don't forget to complete your do now, watch this video, and the Google form is the same it's been the past few days. You cannot submit until you get all questions correct. There is a Zoom session for help at 10 a.m. You don't need the video on, just the audio, so you can come on and not show your face and just ask your questions. It is to your benefit because I will show you live how to solve some problems from the assignment that particular day. Your form is going to look exactly like this. So it'll tell you what you're solving for. In this case, we're solving for the rate or the R. So we need to sub in what we know. In this case, we know the interest is $1,440. We know the principal was $8,000. We don't know the rate, so we let that be R. And we know the time was 4 years. Now, when these letters are next to each other, that's multiplication. So we can simplify. We can do 4 times 8,000 to get 32,000. R equals 1,440. Now that should look very familiar to you. That's actually a one-step equation. So to solve for R, you divide both sides of the equation by 32,000. Okay, then when you take 1,440, be careful the order. What goes on top goes in the calculator first. So 1,440 divided by 32,000 gives you R equals 0 and 45 thousandths. Now remember the rate is a percent, so we move it 2 places to the right, and we get the rate in this case to be 4.5%. Okay, so you sub in what you know and then you solve for the unknown variable. I will show you this one more time. So please watch again. Once again, we're solving for the rate. We know the interest is $620. The principal was the large sum of money that was put in, which was $7,750. We don't know the rate, so that's R, and we know the time is 2 years. So we're going to simplify 7,750 times 2 gives me 15,500. R equals 620. Okay, now it's my one-step equation. I divide by 15,500 to both sides. The order matters, so I do 620 divided by 15,500. And I should get a decimal, which I do. I get R equals 400ths. Now the rate is expressed as a percent, so you move the decimal 2 places to the right, and the rate in this case is 4%. Okay, that is solving for the rate. It is going to be very similar to solve for the principal and the time as well. So for solving for the time, we are going to do the exact same thing. We sub in what we know. We know the interest was $300. We know the principal was $2,000. The rate we have to express as a decimal, so we move it 2 places to the left. The decimal is 500ths. And we don't know the time, so we let that be T. Now we multiply 2,000 times 500ths is 100. So we get 100T equals 300. I divide by 100. There's my one-step equation. I divide by 100 and I get T equals 3. So the time in this case is 3 years. You just sub in what you know and set up the equation. Watch one more time for solving for the time. The interest is $29.25. That's the I. The principal is $1,950. The rate is 3%, but don't forget I need to make it a decimal. and I don't know the time, so I can leave it as t. Now, this means multiply, right? So I take 1,950 and multiply by 300, and I get 58 and 5/10 t equals 29.25. And I divide by 58 and 5/10. I divide by 58 and 5/10. Order matters, so I type it in exactly how I see it. 29 and 25/100 divided by 58 and 5/10. And I get the time in this case to equal 5/10. So the time is 5/10 or a half a year. That is solving for the time, exactly like solving for the rate. The last example, we're going to solve for the principal, so it's still going to be the same thing. We put in what we know. The interest was $464. We don't know the principal, so we let that be P. We know the rate is 2%, so we're going to make it a decimal again. So it's 200ths. And we know the time is 4 years. Okay? So now we multiply. We do 200ths times 4, and we get 800ths P equals 464. There's your one-step equation. We divide by 800ths. We divide by 800ths. So we do 464 divided by 800ths, and we get the principal in this case to be $5,800. And the principal should be larger than the interest because that is the money you put in. Please watch one last time. I will show you how to solve for the principal. So the same thing, 85 is my interest. I don't know the principal, so I let that be P. The rate is always a decimal when we put it into our equation. So in this case, it's 500ths, and the time in this case is 2 years because the time is always in years, right? So I do 500ths times 2, and I get 1/10 P equals 85. I divide by 1/10. I divide by 1/10, and I get the principal in this case to be $850. He invested $850 for 2 years. Okay, I hope this makes sense. You are just solving either for the P, the R, or the T, subbing in what you know versus solving for what you don't know. And this is what we did Friday, so I just want to review solving for the interest. This is very straightforward. You are just solving for the I, so you're just going to multiply the principal times the rate times the time. But I just wanted to recap. So we take $52,000 because that's the principal. The rate, we make it a decimal. Now, remember the time. The time has to be in years. So we have to change this. There's 12 months in a year, so 6 months is a half a year. So when we put it in our equation, we can't use 6. We have to use 5/10. The time always has to be expressed in years. Okay, don't forget that. And now we're just ready to multiply like we did on Friday. And when we multiply straight across, we get the interest that you earned would have been $910 in 6 months. So the interest is $910. And remember how we find the account balance? You don't lose what you put in, right? So you still have $52,000. And in 6 months, you made $910. So you add it together, and your balance would be $52,910. Okay, so that was a review from Friday. Interest, you just solve for the I. Account balance, you add the interest to what you put in. So just some reminders. Please try your best. If you need help, it is best you join my Zoom. Okay, at 10 a.m. I'll be on from 10 to 10:30 waiting for whoever joins. You can join for 5 minutes. You could stay for the whole time. I will help you live. It is the same process to solve for the principal, the rate, and the time. Okay, so I showed you 2 examples of each, but it's the same process. Remember, the rate, when you put your final answer in the form, you change the decimal to a percent because you have to express the rate as a percent in the form. the time is always in years, and the principal is the large amount of money you borrowed or deposited. And if it asks for account balance, like the last example, you add the interest to the principal to get the account balance, okay? So those are just some reminders. In the form, please use the percent sign when solving for the rate, and please use the dollar sign when solving for the principal, the interest, or the account balance, okay? Try your best. Thank you.